All right, everybody, we're here today to talk about the parts of speech. This is the first video I'm putting together for our unit on grammar. Notice the cartoon person blowing bubbles here. That was the first thing that came up when I searched Microsoft Office's clip art file for fun. And let me tell you that grammar is going to be fun, at least as much fun as this person blowing bubbles. So let's start by going through the 8 parts of speech and reviewing some of those definitions. So the first part of speech that I want to talk about today are nouns. Nouns, as you probably remember from some point in your education, are words that represent people, places, and things. They represent objects in a sentence. So let's take a look at an example sentence. Here we've got this sentence, wow! In class today, Mr. Kennedy skillfully taught the attentive class, and now they are smart. I wrote this sentence because it uses all 8 parts of speech at some point or another. So we're going to go through this sentence in each slide and look for these different parts of speech. So we're going to start out looking for the nouns. So take a second to look at this sentence and see how many words are in here that we can identify as being persons, places, or things. Here's the answer key. The nouns in this sentence are class, Mr. Kennedy, and class again. That's the same word twice. Let's talk about some different kinds of nouns that you might encounter, and this is worth adding to your notes. Nouns can be described as being either common or proper. In this sentence, there is a common noun, class, right here, and a proper noun, Mr. Kennedy. So proper nouns refer to specific people, places, or things like Mr. Kennedy or Winston Churchill or Bosnia or something. And common nouns refer to general types of things. Nouns can be singular, plural, or collective. In this sentence, Mr. Kennedy is a singular noun. There is, in fact, only one of him. There aren't any real plural nouns in this sentence. If there were multiple classes, we could say that there were plural nouns. Class is what we would call a collective noun because it does represent a group of people, but it acts like a singular noun in this sentence. So there we have a little cartoon picture of Mr. Kennedy teaching his class. Pretty much exactly sums up what's going on in this sentence. So now that we understand nouns, let's move on to our next part of speech. The next part of speech I want to talk about are pronouns. And I'll tell you right now that pronouns are often the part of speech that most confuses students because they think that they're nouns. Pronouns are words that take the place of nouns in a sentence. So again, if we look at our example sentence, wow, in class today, Mr. Kennedy skillfully taught the attentive class, and now they are smart. We want to identify the pronouns. We want to find words that are replacing those nouns that we just identified on the previous slide. So here it is. There's only one pronoun in this sentence, and it's the word they. What this sentence is really saying is Mr. Kennedy skillfully taught the attentive class, and now the attentive class is smart. But that would sound ridiculous, so you replace the word class with the pronoun they. In English, there are lots of different kinds of pronouns. I'll post some resources to Blackboard so you can look at these lists. And you could theoretically memorize all the pronouns, but if you at least learn to recognize the different types of pronouns, you'll be in pretty good shape. So the personal pronouns, sometimes called sentence pronouns, subject pronouns, I, you, he, she, it, we, us, they, them. Those are personal pronouns. They replace the actors in a sentence. Possessive pronouns, mine, yours, hers, its, his, ours, etc. Possessive pronouns denote ownership. So if we were to say something like Mr. Kennedy taught his class, what that's really saying is Mr. Kennedy taught Mr. Kennedy's class. By the way, we call the word that is replaced by a pronoun an antecedent. So in this example sentence that we've been looking at, the antecedent of the pronoun they is the word class. The interrogative pronouns are those question pronouns: who, which, how, where, when, why, etc. Those are interrogative pronouns, like to interrogate. They ask questions. The antecedent of an interrogative pronoun is unknown, right? So if you say something like, who spilled spaghetti all over the floor? That the pronoun who is representing this unknown person who spilled the spaghetti. Relative pronouns are hard, but they can be words like that or which. And there's also what we call reflexive and intensive pronouns: myself, yourself, himself, herself. But basically, there's a set number of pronouns, and we use them to replace the infinite number of nouns that we use in the English language. And here's a picture of Stephen King's It to help you remember that it is a pronoun and that clowns are scary. The next part of speech that we're going to talk about today are verbs. Verbs are the action words in a sentence. Verbs describe what is taking place. They express either action or state of being. So here's our example sentence again. Wow! In class today, Mr. Kennedy skillfully taught the attentive class, and now they are smart. There are two verbs in this sentence. One is an action verb, and one is a linking verb. See if you can identify them. The verbs are taught and are. Taught describes something that Mr. Kennedy did, so that's an action verb. Are describes something that the class is, so that's a linking verb. But in both cases, it describes something that's basically taking place in the sentence. Here's a comic strip that I like about verbs. I'll pause for a second while you read it. So there you go. That was how long it took me to read it. Am I a faster reader than you? I don't know, but I'm going to keep talking right now. Anyway, this cartoon is about the fact that one of the things that the English language does more than most other language is turn words into verbs. Okay, so the next part of speech that we are going to talk about are adjectives. Adjectives are the first modifier that we're going to talk about today. Modifiers are words that give you more information about other words in a sentence. One way that you can test to see if something is a modifier is if you can delete it from the sentence and have a sentence that still makes some kind of sense. So the first modifier that we're talking about, as I said, are adjectives. Adjectives are words that give you more information about nouns or pronouns in a sentence. So if we're looking at our example sentence again, we want to find out what are the adjectives. So take a minute and look through this sentence and see if you can identify the adjectives. Words that give us more information about those nouns and pronouns that we identified earlier. Here they are. The adjectives in this sentence are the, attentive, and smart. One way to test for adjectives is that they answer one of these questions: what kind, which one, or how many. So which class? The class. That's what we call the definite article in the English language. At some point someone might have taught you about articles. Articles are forms of adjectives, and in English they are the, and an. So which one? The class. It's an adjective. What kind of class? The attentive class. And now what are they? What kind of they have they become? Smart. Here's when I did a Google image search for adjectives. Here's what I found. These two cartoon people without any clothes. We could probably use lots of adjectives to describe them. One is tall, one is short, one is happy, one looks kind of concerned. Here's a picture of a snake that I found because it fit at the bottom of the screen. What are some adjectives we could use to describe it? It's crazy. It's green. It's googly-eyed. Right? There's one of it. Those are all adjectives that we could use to describe this snake. Okay, so the next part of speech that we're going to talk about are adverbs. Adverbs are our second modifier part of speech. You may know that adverbs are there to give us more information about verbs. They add on to verbs. That was kind of easy to remember, right? But it's a little trickier than that because adverbs can also modify adjectives, or other adverbs. Sometimes adverbs act like kind of a catch-all category for other words in a sentence. So let's check out our example sentence again. Wow, in class today, Mr. Kennedy skillfully taught the attentive class, and now they are smart. There are two adverbs in that sentence, one that's pretty easy to spot and one that's more challenging. The first adverb, the one that you probably picked up on already, was skillfully. Because it's an ly word, and most of us know that most ly words in the English language are adverbs. The other adverb in this sentence is now. One way to remember how now is an adverb is that adverbs answer the questions how, where, when, and in what manner. So we've got this little speedy guy down here. He's in, we could use the adverb quickly or something to describe what he's doing. It answers the how question. How did he run? Quickly. But it could also answer a question like where. So he ran north, right? Or he ran south, right? Or even east or west. Those would all be adverbs as they're used in that sentence. Or when, right? This morning he ran. That's also an adverb. Okay, now we're into the shun words. There are several T-I-O-N parts of speech. The first one we're going to talk about are conjunctions. Conjunctions are words used to join parts of the sentence together. They connect one element of the sentence to another one. So take a look at our example one and see if you can identify the conjunctions. There's only one, and it's the conjunction and. And is probably the conjunction that you think of first. There are two kinds of conjunctions. There are what we call coordinating conjunctions. They join parts of the sentence that are of equal importance or weight in the sentence. And you can remember them with the acronym FANBOYS because there are only 7 of them in English. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so, with a missing comma. The other kind of conjunction, which there are more of, are what are called subordinating conjunctions. They are used to join an element that requires the rest of the sentence to make sense. To be a subordinate is to be sort of beneath someone or dependent on someone. So subordinating conjunctions connect elements that depend on the rest of the sentence for meaning. They're words like although, because, if. And again, I will post a complete list of subordinating conjunctions to Blackboard. So you should remember that conjunctions are words that join things, like a train. Hopefully not one that will crash through a wall spectacularly, like this train did. They're words that link things. See, it's a joke about Legend of Zelda, which is a video game that none of you have ever heard of. But that character's name is Link, and I think it's funny. The next part of speech that we're going to talk about are prepositions. Prepositions show the relationship between a noun and some other part of the sentence. So in our example sentence, these are the prepositions. There's only one. In class today. It shows the relationship between today and the rest of the sentence. Prepositions are words like in, on, around, between, through, above. Again, they show relationships between nouns in some other part of the sentence. You might think of everywhere you can be in class in relation to your desk. You can be in your desk or on your desk. You can be between two desks. You could be above your desk. You might also have heard, or at least I've always taught prepositions as being anywhere a squirrel can go on a tree. So like this squirrel right here, who I think is also funny. That squirrel can go through a tree. He can go around a tree. He can go behind a tree or under a tree. Those are all prepositions. The last part of speech that we are going to talk about today are interjections. There's only one word left in the sentence that we haven't talked about, and it's the word wow. Interjections are words that express meaning, usually strong emotion, but aren't any other part of speech. They're words like pow, right? Oh my gosh. If you can put an exclamation point at the end of it inside the sentence, it's an interjection. So those are the main parts of speech. Hopefully, You learned something, and we'll be using these in class for the rest of the year.